The first of the Group 1s on Champions Day then is the Champions Mile. We've lost one unfortunately, it's Elaine Paragon, so now just the 8s go to post, headed by Beauty Generation. Zach Purton, the likely leader, will jump from barrier number 1. Season's Bloom, beaten favourite International Day from 5, Beauty Only. Was winner last time out with Neil Callan on board. Western Express, Blizzard back from Japan. Southern Legend, Brett Preble will now ride. Pingu Spark and Singapore Sling, second in the Derby, the Classic Cup winner. Chad Schofield in the saddle. Now, as far as the speed map is concerned, we're obviously going to have a look at this one on the touchscreen, Brett. And well, Beauty Generation's drawn perfectly. You imagine he's going to jump to the front. That's what he's been doing all year. You would think so, Andrew. Yeah, it's really been handed to him on a platter, hasn't it, with that barrier. The 3 key runners in the race for me: Southern Legend, Pingu Spark, and Singapore Sling. They're the 3 potentially that can roll forward. I think Singapore Sling from his outside barrier will potentially take the option to try and get outside of Beauty Generation, maybe even pursue the lead. Pingu Spark, they've had options in the past to go forward. They've chosen not to, so maybe he's another opportunity, but potentially might look for cover. We saw Southern Legend, of course, dictate a race not that long ago. Sit Sprint, he made it. He might also travel forward, but we know he's a horse that can do his best work from the back. Whatever happens, Season's Bloom's just going to be sitting in behind, letting it all unfold. Should get the run of the race. Western Express and Beauty Only, we'll hope they take each other on up front. Yeah, they'll expect or hope for a strong pace. But what have you seen in the mornings, Paul?
Well, we'll have a look at some of the ones here. And Beauty Generation, the first one we'll have a look at, just working with a partner horse. He's the horse closest to us. As you say, he's drawn absolutely ideally in Garrett Barrier 1, and the horse is just going enormous this season. He's had a breakout season, hasn't he? And he's still going well. He's been up a while. Here's Season's Bloom now. He's trialled very well recently leading into this race. Joe Moreira knows the horse well, and he moves really nicely down the back straight. You can see he's doing it effortlessly, and he's been well prepared going into this race. And Pingu Spark, one of the big boys here in Hong Kong, over 1,300 pounds. He's a massive beast, isn't he? But he just lopes along here, does it nicely. And I agree with you guys. We've seen the tactics, because I'm surprised he hasn't gone and led in a couple of those races. The
one thing we can say, Andrew, is whatever happens, Beauty Generation can lead. He can hand up if he gets pressured. So it's a real great barrier draw, great barrier number 1 again.
Absolutely. All right, there's 2 beauties in the race, Generation and Only. Beauty Only, trained by Tony Cruz.
In the Champions Mile, Tony, Beauty Only, were you a bit surprised that he was able to win the Old Boy last time?
Well, you know, if you consider his races in the past, it's always hasn't been running a real fast race, you know. And as I said, he needs a firm track and he needs the pace on. Once the pace is on, the better his chance gets, you know.
Are you happy with the way that he's come out of his last run?
Yeah, I mean, he haven't lost a pound even. Can you imagine? He puts on weight instead. That's the only thing I'm worried about. He needs racing more often, that's all.
It was a big win last time, but to do it again, he's come up a fair old price, hasn't he?
Well, I think the one thing we can say is he's going to get the good track that he wants and the firmness in the ground. There's reportedly no rain around, so that's in his favour. He's also found form. We heard from Zach Purton back in December that he was a couple of months behind the 8 ball. Well, those months have gone past now, and the evidence is there from his last start victory that he's right on song.
Well, he was runner-up in this race last year, and he was last year's champion miler as well. We shouldn't forget that. But it's just taken him a little bit longer to come to the ball so far this season. So this is the win last time out. You got Western Express here, finishes in 2nd place. Pingu Spark ran 3rd, and of course Beauty Generation just in behind Time Warp here. He finished in 5th.
The one thing that went in his favour on this occasion, Paul, is that there were a few attackers to Time Warp sort of in the early stages, and obviously being over the mile, Time Warp had to click up a little bit early, and that certainly produced the pace that he needed.
Yeah, he had that race perfectly run to suit him. So it didn't suit some of these other horses in the race, and Beauty Only, I think this was his race. I don't think he'll win this race on Sunday. I think this was his win. He's a year older now. As you say, he was champion miler last year, but some of these young guns, I think, has got a little bit on him.
Yeah, he's a winner, of course, of the International Mile too. I'm thinking he can win it, but he needs everything to roll his way. He needs the pace, he needs to come into it. The one thing in his favour is that he is spot on.
Yeah, what about Beauty Generation then? 1 on International Day. There's 3 horses that have done this double. Morris, Able Friends, Good Barbar. They were 3 freaks.
Yeah, not bad horses at all. Now, Beauty Generation, as I said earlier on, has had an amazing season. He's done everything right. If they leave him alone in front, he's going to be very dangerous. The key is, as Brett said in the speed map, is do they leave him alone or do they attack him? If they attack him, he's vulnerable. But if they leave him alone, I think he's a massive chance.
Yeah, he's a definite player. He's a definite chance. I've tipped against him, but he could win it. And, of course, he's vying for a Horse of the Year honour if he does, I'd say.
Yeah, certainly is. Definitely. All right, well, let's have a look at some of the others. Blizzard's been on his travels again. This is his first start since the run in the Takamatsu Nomiya Kinnan. It was a good one as well, finishing in 5th.
Yeah, he's a great old horse, Blizzard. He's travelled well and performed well against the horses in Japan on a couple of occasions. You often question horses when they do travel, when they come back, how they're going to, you know, arrive, whether they're in good fettle, whether they're jaded. He seems to cope with it pretty well. The mile, probably a fraction too far. The 1200 is probably a fraction too short. So those little queries alongside of his name suggest for me place at best.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a 1400 metre horse, as you say. And 1600, he's only had one go. He's been placed over the 16, but I'd prefer to see him over 14.
Yeah, hasn't had a trial since he's come back either, Andrew. You just wonder with the travel and all that, maybe that knocks him back half a length or a length. I'd be prepared to take the risk that he won't be able to win it.
All right, OK, we'll come back and look at that race well in a moment for Fine Needle. Next horse we're going to take a check on, though, is Singapore Sling. Now, Singapore Sling, we're going back a little while here just to find, or have a look at his run over a mile, which was the Classic Mile.
Yeah, of course, and he's a very good horse, we know that. I think we looked at the speed map. I think the option they've got to take is to go forward. I think coming back from the trip in the Derby, 2,000 metres back to the mile, they can't sit back last, I wouldn't have thought, and let these horses dictate and sit sprint. I think they need to be aggressive from the gate. He's more of a sort of a grinding type, isn't he, Paul? So that would, for me, be the best way to ride him and probably get the best result out of him. Whether he's good enough to win, it's another question.
Yeah, he's the opposite of Blizzard. He needs 1,800, I think. I think that's his ultimate trip, and that's what he did win, that 1,800 metres. But he's the most consistent horse coming out of the classics, you know, the 4-year-old series. And, you know, he ran those seconds and he obviously won the middle one. So if he lives up to that form, I think Penghai Star was a freak when he won the Derby. And Singapore Sling was well clear of anything else. Yeah,
we know the Derby form stands up well around this time of the year, so he's not without a possible chance.
Yeah. All right, and the final one we're going to take a check on here is Seasons Bloom. It was a star-studded trial like this one, but we're just focusing on him on this occasion.
Yeah, winner of the Stewards Cup. He's obviously had a little bit of a different preparation as opposed to a number of the other horses in the race. We haven't seen a great deal of him since that run in January, but he's coming along nicely. Not an overly big horse, kept fresh. He's just been working beautifully. Trialled enormous here. The reports out of the stable during the week have been very, very positive, suggesting he's cherry ripe, never been better. When you look at all the factors and line them up, Paul, he gets a nice run. Doesn't matter whether there's pace or no pace, he's going to get his chance.
I think that's the key, and I think he's going to be tough to beat. He's come up favourite, but I think he'll be a deserved favourite.
Yeah. It was a tough run, though, in the Gold Cup last time over the 2,000 metres.
Yeah. It was a tough run. Yeah, they broke 1 or 2 minutes, obviously. Time Warp, Pakistan Star and 4th in that. Seasons Bloom sort of loomed up, but I think it's also a very strong form reference. And I like him better at a mile as opposed to 2.
And he's been eased up a little bit there as well, and they've had that trial just to get him cherry ripe.
Yeah. All right, here we go then. So selections, Paul. You with the favourite or taking him on?
No, I'll go with him. I think that this is his race actually, Seasons Bloom. So I quite like him. I think he can win the race, and as Brett said, he should get the race run to suit. Beauty Generation is the interesting run. If they leave him alone, he could easily win this race. He's had a great season. Singapore Sling, not far away. Haven't got much between the top 3. I'll be interested to see what prices the 3 of them come up. And Pingwoo Spark, I think, is quite consistent there for 4th. But I'll be playing exotics, but I do like 3, 1, 9 and 8.
I think he gets the most ticks as well, Seasons Bloom. There's a lot of very good horses in this race. There's not a great deal between them. They all need their certain scenarios, which is often the case in any race. And I just think Seasons Bloom will end up getting probably what he wants here. He'll get cover. The tempo could be soft. It could be quick enough for him to blast off the end of it. He's going to get the race run perfectly. He goes in, cherry ripe, no issues. He's the one to beat. Beauty Only and Beauty Generation. I've gone with 1 on the speed and 1 coming from the back if there is something that pressures. And I think Southern Legend's a little bit underrated. He's very good coming from the back. We saw what he did when he led. I wanted to keep him in the top 4 because I think there's still a bit more to come from him. Casper's always been very bullish about the horse's capabilities. So 3, 4, 1 and 7.
Seasons Bloom for me as well on top there. I think he's clearly the one to beat. An all-domestic affair is the Champions Mile. The next for us, though, is the Chairman's Sprint Prize with international raiders, but Mr. Stunning, the reigning HKIR winner. He's the top-rated horse in the race, but he was beaten by his stablemate, one of 5 in the race for John's size. That is Beats the Clock. Blue points will represent Godolphin. William Buick will be in the saddle. And also in the Godolphin blue is Fine Needle. Tommy Berry will ride.